Oh. Page 24, Sonatina in G major by Beethoven. Again, this is a very famous piece. Lots of piano students play this at one time or another. And there is lots of difference of opinions on how it should be played. I'm going to give you suggestions. I can't say do it this way because there's other ways it might be done. I'm going to start with the right hand. I don't have an text to this handy, so I don't know how much the editor is added in or changed or whatever. So I'm just going to go with the editorial markings in this book and leave it at that. So in the first measure, you have that little grace note. Just a real quick little note right before the first note, but I play it on the beat with the left hand. So you have the left hand going here. So I'm going to play that B with the left hand. A lot of people would say, no, it's played before the beat. I'm not getting into that argument. You do what you think is right, but I play it, and I've always played it, and I taught it to be played on the beat. And they're all that way. They're all over this thing here, and I will do them all the same way. In the second measure, notice the phrase, the two notes phrases in the eighth notes. That's kind of important, so be sure and do that. You're going to get this type of passage elsewhere. I'm not going to point it out every time you see it, but when you see those two note phrases, make sure you've got those in there like that. Second line, last measure. See the little A in the circle? That's the footnote. You go down at the bottom and you see that for this measure and measure 24, in many editions, they just show a single note, an A and a G. They don't show the chords. I don't know how good that's going to help you, but just so you, I guess it's for information. You can play it whichever way. I'm going to play it the way it's written in the music with the chords. I just want to bring out the top note because that's melody. In the third line, there's a little bit of trickiness going on here, so let's go this slowly. Starting out with a half note, not a problem. And then the eighth notes. Then the second measure, look at this. It's a 4-1-5. Eventually you want to do that without looking down. You might have to look down first to get the A. And then again, in the last measure of that line, it's a 4-1-5. I'm just pointing it out because it could be a little tricky. It might throw you. Just be aware it's there. The fingering they're showing is fine. On page 25, third line down, it's measure 25. It's the first measure. You have a 1, and then a 3-2-1. I like that. And then a 4-2-5. I like that. And then a 4-5. I really like the fingering because I like to use different fingers on repeated notes, and they show that in this book. Now, but you'll notice on measure 25 there's a 4 in parentheses above the 1. You wonder, well, what's going on? Because the previous measure, you're here. Rest, and then you come up. They're saying you can, if you want, rather than put a 1 on here, 3-2-1, you can come up. Go from here, you can come up and put a 4 on that. Because the following notes is 3-2-1. And that way you got a 4-3-2-1 going. I don't see any point in that. To me, that's complicating it unnecessarily. I like the thumb on the D, on the half note, and then 3. Because this is good too. You need to do them both. 4. Learn them both. At the end, the last line. Now we want to hear all the rest, right? So you're up here at the high D for 1 beat, and you're off for beat 2, and then you're here for beat 3, off on beat 4, and then here for beat 1, and then off on beat 2, and then, okay. Just make sure you're playing all the rest. For the left hand, I don't know that I really have anything to say. Just do what they're telling you to do. It's all background. Keep it down. And play all the rest. Make sure you're quiet when you're supposed to be in that line. There is a technique you might consider. We tend to play these at the beginning, legato, connect, and they're fingers so you can. But now look at the third measure of that line. You have here. Well, again, Again, I would recommend you play the top note legato. You can't play the bottom note legato because you're repeating the same note, and you can't do that on a piano without the pedal. And we're not using pedal on here, so it's just connect the top note. Helps a little. And I recommend you do that same technique everywhere in this piece you can. For instance, in the last line on page 24, you're starting out here, and then 2 quarter notes connect the top note. Again, tricky, but it's good finger exercise. It helps to develop finger control. I don't agree with the... Now, if that's complicating things for you, fingers just aren't working, then don't worry about it. All right, go ahead and just separate the notes. Over on page 25, second line, last 2 measures in the left hand, you're here. I would put a little separation between the last 4 quarter notes in the line. Same thing in the last line. As for those 3 low G's, I'd do a 5-4-5. Notice it's a 4 on the B. I like that. Good. The fermata at the end, I'll hold 8 counts instead of 4. And we'll talk a little bit about the dynamics they're showing. This is a gentle piece. You're starting soft. Now here, come up above soft, get a little louder than soft so you got room to come down. Because you want to be soft when you get to the end of it. So you're loud, mezzo forte or something. Not really loud. Don't get harsh. This piece never gets really loud. Second line, you have a crescendo. They're not telling you how far to crescendo. I would crescendo all the way up to the highest note in the line, which is a G. And that I consider what we call the climax of the phrase, the point where you're headed toward. So it's here. And you come off at the end. And the third line down, you have the swell going on, the louder and softer thing. And it's the A, it's the top notes where you're headed for. So it's here. Come down. Now on the last line on page 24, at the beginning of each of these decrescendos, start a little louder so you got room to come down. Then get louder. So you're back to where you were at the beginning. The dynamics, the louds and softs add a whole lot to it. So once you get the rhythms and the notes and the fingerings and the phrases and all that junk figured out, put in these louds and softs. And once you have those in, then start feeling the music. Feeling what it's telling you, and that's where you turn it into music. Otherwise, you can have a computer play it for you. Let's look at the last 3 lines on page 25. Finally, you're at a mezzo forte. This is a general statement. Again, nothing in this piece is loud, but this is about it. This is like, hey, here we are. Softer, and the left hand's the only thing playing, so the left hand is getting softer. Well, the left hand is already softer, but go ahead and let the left hand get softer still, so that when the right hand comes in with a piano in the next measure, the left hand is really soft where it needs to be, so it's here. Now, starting with the second measure of the 4th line down, it's a repeat of that same statement we just did musically. And in most cases in music, when you get the statements done twice like this, the second time will be softer than the first. And then at the end, you're finishing it mezzo forte. It's like that. Here I am done here. It's almost like a coda at the end of the thing they've added on. Now be careful on the notes. And I have a problem with this. I have to be careful. If you take a look at, let's say, the second line on page 25 in the left hand, you have this Alberti bass pattern going. And I tend to just do that all the time. Anytime I'd see eighth notes, I would just automatically do that pattern. But if you look at the third and fourth and fifth lines on page 25, it's not that pattern. It's not this. And that's what I tend to do. So it's this pattern. It's different. So be careful on that. Common time, I'll give us 4 counts. Let's try this together. 1, 2, ready, go. Rest. Repeat. Rest. Two, three, four, hold, 2, 3, 4, off.